Hello YouTube audience. Today is October the 19th, 2020, well into fall here in Seattle. I want to check on some of the cutting I made early this year, maybe in May. These are a bunch of Japanese maple cutting. It's Arakawa, Japanese rough bark maple. I put them in several months ago. Some of them are still looking very good right now. Some of them start to show fall color, which is also a good sign. But some of them didn't survive. I think there are two problems that I need to be careful of when I'm making cutting. One is forgot to water them. They would dry out and die easily because they don't have root yet. The other problem, which is maybe more particular for places like Seattle, which we have a lot of rain, and if it got too wet all the time, it's also going to kill the cutting because they don't have much root to rot, and if the limited amount of roots are rotted in the early stage of their life, they will not survive too. So the other problem is to prevent it from getting rain on all the time. So I think ideally, if someone has an unheated greenhouse, it would be best to put them in an unheated greenhouse without getting rain on all the time. But I don't have that, so a lot of them probably die due to getting too much rain and too much water. So I want to take my best shot and see if I can get one out that has good roots on it and repot it into some good bonsai soil. So I think this one looks extremely good at this time, this one, and I want to take it out and take a look. The rest of it, if I just even get one that survive, I will take that one out and put it into a good bonsai soil. The rest of them, I'm just going to keep them in the original container because the original soil mix has its advantage too. It has a large amount of pumice in it, which would keep the roots warm during the winter. So I'm just going to, I also just got this very cute glaze pot from Bonsai Northwest, and I want to try to put one of the maples in the pot. So I'm simply going to try to gently tease this maple out. This is already deep fall, not ideal season for repotting at all. So I want to see if there is any root on this maple. If not, I will just cover the soil again and let it grow for more time. But if there is good amount of root, I'm going to try to take it out and repot it into this new pot. there must be some roots in it, so I will take the maple out and see if there are roots in it. In the end, I managed to get 2 of these out. They are both alive and has plenty of roots. You can see such a tiny cutting already has very long roots. I try to get all the roots out and try to keep all the roots because this is not repotting season, and I don't want to cut any roots if I don't have to. So the rest of the maple, I'm just going to leave it in its original container without disturbing them, and I will compare whether it is better to transplant them now in a good, well-draining bonsai soil, or is it better to keep it in the original soil, which is less well-draining and but keep the heat, maybe keep the warmth better through the winter. And I will see which of them survive. And so these 2, I'm going to put them into this beautiful pot. So I'm just going to merely prepare the pots for now. So here we have a mesh for the drainage hole, because we have 2 drainage holes. I'm going to prepare 2 meshes. Here's one. And the second one. I pretty much reuse a lot of wires. So this is a used wire. I'm going to use it to make a pin, to pin the wire, the mesh in the pot. Simply going to make it into the shape of a pin. Don't have to be fancy. And put this pin into the mesh to stabilize the mesh in the hole. And the pin is coming out on this side. When it's too long, I just cut it away. Sorry for the noise. I choose to take some of the maple out, but not all of them, because I worry about taking them out too early. Some of the maple would be killed by the transplant process. Maybe it's easier to see that I just put the paints through the mesh. Let's see. Maybe I can make the angle a little bit bigger. Alright, so the paint looks like this now. Going to push it through the mesh and then put the mesh in and cover the holes. Cover the drainage holes. Okay, now just need to bend the wire. Too long, the pot. These are all reused wires. So we can afford to waste some of it. Okay, so both mesh are secured in there right now. And there is another piece of reused wire, and I'm going to put them through the drainage hole from the bottom, and they're going to be used for stabilizing the two cuttings. So they sit inside like this. Okay, so the pot is now prepared, and I'm going to put some bonsai soil . So the soil I'm using is just pure Akadama, which is a very common soil for bonsai and for gardening in Japan. It is these clay particles which was harvested as clay and then baked in 300 C into sheet, and I think they then break the sheet into these small particles. They retain water as well as allowed a lot of air to stay in the soil. So it's ideal for bonsai because in a small container environment, the plant would need a lot of water. At the same time, they would need to grow their roots, and their roots need air to survive such a small container environment. I'm simply going to put the trees in. Let's see, and try to spread all these roots out on all the directions. I'm not going to cut any of the roots. They have a lot of long tap roots, which ultimately we are going to cut, but not at this time. It is not the right season to cut these roots. Let's see. I need to think about when I separate these two trees, how would it, or maybe this would be just a twin trunk tree in the end, so I may not need to separate them. But currently what I'm thinking is, how do I distribute these roots in both sides of the container so the root system doesn't mess up too much together? Okay, now it's time to use the two wires that's in there. I'm going to put on some wires for the two cuttings, but I'm not going to directly wire them. The two wires are mainly for the purpose of stabilizing the two plants so that they don't fall out before the roots got established. I'm going to use these paraffin. Let's see, it should have the name there. It's called paraffin. I'm going to pre-stretch some of the paraffin and then use the paraffin to tie the seedling or the cuttings to tie the cutting to the wires. And this paraffin will ultimately degrade away, so and I would not need to worry about the wire confining the growth of the plant. Okay. Okay, one of the maples is stabilized. Now I just need to put the other one. I need to remember that the root system of the two maples actually cross each other. If I don't remember that, I may have trouble taking them out one day, separating them. Unless I'm going to really make them into a twin trunk tree bonsai, then I no longer need to worry about separating them one day. But currently, I just need to make a mental note that the tree on the left side has its root system on the right, and the tree on the right side has its root system on the left. So their roots cross each other. This is one of the main purpose why I make these videos, just so that I have a document that I can look back to later and know that what I did. No one has perfect memories. If I forgot what I did, I can always look back at these videos and see how the maples was put it into the pot and how I should separate them one day, if I ever want to separate them. Okay, so they are both in the pot. And I want to get all the roots inside the pots. So now both of the trees are in, and I hope they are in roughly the right locations. The roots cross a little bit. But it should be okay. I'm not cutting any roots. Now I'm just going to fill the container with the soil. They don't really have many roots, so I don't think I need to poke the soil in with chopsticks. I may just simply tap the container a little bit. Sorry for the noise. I may simply tap the container a little bit to make the soil settle in. Oops. Some of the roots come out from the soil. That's unexpected, but I still have more soil to cover all the roots. The tapping method actually worked, but it kind of disturbed and make the roots come out. Now, with the little wires in there, I have some opportunity to put in some early bends. I believe this should be relatively flexible. So I put in some tiny bends in there. They are going the same direction right now. Okay, I hope this will be sufficient. It's not going to bite in the wire at this point. And I'm going to top dress the soil with some sphagnum moss. So these are sphagnum moss. The purpose for top dressing is to keep the soil from direct sunlight. If the soil are constantly hit by direct sunlight, especially in summer, they are going to be degraded relatively fast. The second purpose is to retain moisture near the surface of the soil. To encourage surface root growth. Although at this point it may not be important because the plants is so young now, they essentially don't have any surface root at this time. But nonetheless, it's going to be good. These plants currently are definitely overpotted for this pot. The pot is way larger than it need to be. But the primary goal for here when we start bonsai from seedling is for them, or from cutting, is for them to grow. So I'm not too worried about overpotting them. Also, the soil mix is really well draining. So I'm not really concerned about overpotting at this point. For twin trunk design, they are a little bit too far away, but they may not be a twin trunk tree. In the future, I may still be able to separate them, so not to worry about it at this point. I also am not exactly sure if it's necessary to even put in these bands, because these bands are so subtle. At this point, it's going to be gone when the seedling grew up. So I may be doing something that's not very useful, but anyway, since the wire is in, I may just do something for it. Okay. So here is my two seedlings potted in the pot. I hope there are two cuttings. Sorry, I misspoke. I hope they survive this winter, and next year I'm going to take off the paraffin and hope that they just grow crazy next year. And if they survive and grow next year, we will keep update you on this little bonsai. Hope you enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.